Beetlejuice just calling it off there before the red team can get any points. Well done. That's 2 points to the Firetails. A nice defensive play.
All right, so things are looking fairly even at the moment. Both teams are scoring points, bit of back and forth here. Currently Krakens with the points advantage. Coming into Jam 5, we've got Pipsqueak for Diamond Firetails. And for the Krakens, it's 3-2-5 HIM. Pipsqueak getting lead, Jammer racing around. HIM still trying to find their way out of the pack. Final couple of hits there from a few lone blockers, but HIM makes short work of those and is back. Meanwhile, Pipsqueak's being recycled out the back of the pack there from Fleabag and decides, you know what, I'm going to call off the jam. So defensive strategy, they got 1 point there from that jam and called it off before the Krakens jammer could come around and start scoring points. So those of you watching at home on the live stream, we'll see if we can respond to your chat. And if you've got any messages for the teams, pop them in the chat there on the YouTube.
We're up to Jam 6 now. We've got Dan Slaughter on Firetails. And it's 1-1. She-Wolf again, jamming for the Krakens. She-Wolf with the lead and with the power jam. To the back of the pack there. Ooh, almost made it out the front.
Looks like this apex that we're on is a little bit of a slippy zone. A lot of people, unfortunately, getting a bit of track nap action on this corner.
Been played in the last game, can confirm. This track tends to be quite different to any other tracks in the rest of the circuit.
The track is also quite different from itself in that some areas are sticky, some areas are slippy, and then it changes its mind partway through.
Look, we have to mix it up.
Just keeps everyone on their toes. Absolutely. And also on their ass. All right, coming into the next jam, here's our 5-second call. And our whistle means we are away. We've got Dan Slaughter lining up for Diamond Valley as the jammer, and can't see who that is for the Krakens, but the Krakens jammer's been recycled back. Both jammers now pushing up the top of the pack towards the apex. Dan Slaughter taking the outside line, coming to the inside. Tenacious T doing the same on the in to the out, coming through the middle, breaking right through the middle. So Tenacious T with lead jammer status, coming back to pack of Krakens blockers there on the second straightaway. Trying to find some space on the outside, moving back to the inside. Tenacious T looks like sitting 2 penalties. That is a big disadvantage to the Krakens. So let's see if the Diamond Firetails can make the most of this. They've got 1 minute when Tenacious T jammer is going to have to spend in the penalty box. Dan Slaughter being recycled back slowly there, back on track, trying to push past Tucky and Kangabanger, and away through the inside liner there, around the apex on their initial pass. All right, so both teams now with a full complement of blockers back on track. Looks like Harmon Miranda's going to do a little bit of action here before Dan Slaughter re-engages. Got to get that hat on. If you don't have the hat on with the star on it, you don't get points for passing people. Must be wearing your star on your head in order to score your points. All right, Dan Slaughter being recycled again. And that is the end of the jam. And Tenacious T is still sitting in the penalty box. So we'll be starting the next jam from there, which means the Diamond Firetails have a power jam start. A little bit of time where they're the only team with the jammer on track, see if they can score a couple of points, get lead, and get an advantage.
Quite the advantage if you can get lead straight off the ground. Pipsqueak coming out firing. pushing hard on the South Sea defence, and oh, nicely done, right to the line, through with lead. Tenacious T returning to the track now, going for a bit of a jump, doesn't quite pull it off. Always worth a try. Pipsqueak with some fancy footwork, getting through on the apex there. Tenacious T having another try on the apex as well. Pipsqueak calling it from the ground.
Classic move, the fallen call.
That's where it's at, absolutely. Looks like a 6-point jam to the Firetails, puts us on 18 to the Krakens and 17 to the Firetails. Super close and super defensive. Great game.
Yeah, we haven't had too many jams, which has just been really high-scoring jams. So it's been a lot of solid defence and a lot of like quick jams, calling it off. So there's a lot of pressure being put on both teams here to either score points or call it off. All right, so we have Pearl Jammer for Diamond Valley, and for the Krakens, that's HAM, who had, Krakens. HAM with lead coming around on the second apex. Meanwhile, Pearl Jammer's still trying to find their way out of that defensive pack there, with Fleabag holding on a great bit of one-on-one blocking there at the top of the pack. HAM trying to find that space through, a little bit of help. Bit of a stumble on the on this chaos corner we're at the moment. And there is the end of that jam. We've got 3 points to the Firetails there, bringing their score up to 20, and 4 points to the Krakens, bringing them up to 22. So it's still a very close game. Anyone's game at the moment. And it looks like we're just going to have a little bit of a timeout for a few moments. We'll speak to you soon.
Okay, here we are back again. Coming into Jam 10, perfect song choice from Beard there of Beardcasts, who's putting this out to the world and giving us all this equipment. Okay, Red Jammer, She-Wolf was out the front, but has got a couple of forearms penalty, so now it's a power jam to Blue Jammer. 8-4. Beetledukes. pushing hard. But a spirited defence here from red team. Squeezing round that outside. And has lead. Both teams setting up on Chaos Corner here. Happens to be right in front of the commentating box as well, which is fantastic. Exactly where we want the chaos to happen.
Feels like we're part of the action.
It does. It's right here. Look, if they come off wildly enough, then we could very much be part of the action. Beetlejuice still pushing through. Once again, really strong defence. Now She-Wolf is back. Beetlejuice calling it before they can get any more points. Once again, still sitting at defensive play here. Just the one point for the Firetails. Beautifully done. 22 to 21. The Krakens just in the lead.
It's really close. Really a close game. And I want to say that it's an absolute kraken of a game. Thanks, everyone. All right, and we're away, and we've got Pipsqueak for Diamond Valley, and we've got Tenacious T getting lead on the first corner for the Krakens, but Pipsqueak is not far behind, so there's a bit of a race on for these jammers. There's both defensive packs trying to figure out where they need to be. Tenacious T taking that apex jump again, sliding into the call-off. Just having a look here if everyone's got all their knee pads on correctly in the chaos zone. So it looks like that leap and call-off landing doesn't look like we got any points there, or are we talking about it? Let's have a look. Yep, no points at the end of that jam, so a lot of effort. Unfortunately, no points there for either team, so we're still on 22 to the Krakens to 21 to the Diamond Firetails. Thank you to our officials.
Absolutely, quick official timeout. Just to really sort those things out. While we've got that going on, we'll just have a bit of a chat about some of the sponsors we've got today. We've got Talk Derby to me. Fantastic little stall over there that's been a mainstay of Statewide for some time. Along with So Neurodivergent. Beautiful pun name. We love a good pun name. Also a stall that's been part of Statewide for some time.
We've got Forest Mobile Massage, which is hosted by Geelong skater Beasting. So get on down there and get a bit of help with your sore muscles. We've got Armadillo College Bendigo, aiming to become Bendigo's first neuro-affirming school. And we're just going to have an official review so we can keep talking about this. And Hypodermic's going to go and find out what's happening at the official review, and I'll keep telling you about the sponsors. We'd also like to thank Bat City Music, Boneless Barbershop, and Emily Roberts Pharmacy, which is a local business generously donating to our raffle, owned by DCRD's very own ModCon skater Cross Stitcher, who you saw on debut in the previous game on the ModCon game. So well done there. All right, while Hypodermic's finding out the secrets of the official review, I'd also take this opportunity to say thank you to our officials for this game. We've got Muggles, Donkey Kong, Bashalot, Blizzard, Buster Hammy, Jack Rabbit, Commander Chaos, Abby Normal, Mad Pixie, and Disaster Chief. And on skates we've got as well Murderface, Zarantula, Mari Fury, Smackaron, Rickamortis, Gary, Beck, and Frankenherder. All right, Hypodermic is back and is going to fill us in. What's the goss?
Absolutely. So, Firetails were looking for a leg block on the Red Jammer. Turns out Red Jammer already had a leg block and they didn't realise. So, unfortunately, that means they have lost that official review. They're still going to discuss it and make sure that it's all above board.
So they asked for a penalty to be issued, but it already had been. Is that the case?
Correct.
Right.
Just making doubly sure.
Now, a leg block is different from a low block, which is fun. A leg block is when you block with your leg in a place that you're not supposed to. And a low block is when you use a legal blocking zone against an illegal target zone being the lower part of the leg. So penalties in Derby, you have legal and non-legal target zones and blocking zones. So things you can hit with and things you can hit on or not. So that's fun.
So you'll notice some of our skaters have been getting forearms penalties. You're not allowed to come in swinging, a la the Simpsons.
Yes, you're only allowed to have 2 arms in roller derby.
Yeah, unfortunately. These jokes just keep getting better. She's here all week. Try the veal.
I make that joke every round.
It truly, truly never gets old.
All right, there's our 5-second call. As we're lining up, that whistle means we are away. We've got Tenacious T starting in the penalty box, so it's a power jam start to the Diamond Firetails. Dan Slaughter pushing that solid defensive pack, and then the Firetails are like, all right, we're going to rush up and we're going to do a little bit of offense to try and break up this defensive pack. They're going to hold back there, and Dan Slaughter can push. See if they can push the pack forward. So the Diamond Firetails don't want to push the pack too far forward because they want the pack to have to spread out and bridge, which is exactly what has just happened. Meanwhile, Tenacious T is back on track and the Firetails have reformed into their defensive shape to try and hold her there. But Tenacious T has made it through an initial pass, and Dan Slaughter is coming through again, still being held lemon squeezy out the top there. And with some assistance there from Helen Mirone. Big hit there, Tenacious T hitting the back of that pack, and those Diamond Firetail blockers are very solid. Here's that call off. Looks like we've had a couple of points across the board, I think. 3 points to Diamond Valley, bringing them to 24. 2 points to the Krakens brings them to 24. We have got an even scoreline, people. Derby fans, this is exciting. Could still go either way. We've still got 14 minutes left in this half. One of these teams is going to want to pull away pretty soon.
Okay, we're up to jam 13. Pearl Jammer for Firetails, and it looks like HIM for the Krakens out in the lead. Pearl Jammer still pushing. Pearl Jammer guesting for the Firetails today. Guesting's a fine tradition in roller derby. Always good to get out there and have a crack with a team that's not your own. HIM through for another 4 points. And a star pass from the Firetails. So now that makes 5-2-5. Bella Bomber, the jammer for the Firetails. Unfortunately for the Krakens, they're 2 blockers down, and one of those blockers is on a double penalty as well. Have to be really careful about how you exit the track after a penalty. Straight off, not using those diagonals, not using the track. Otherwise, that is another penalty. Bella Bomber doing some fancy footwork there to try and get past the 2 Krakens blockers. Ooh, we got some jammer on jammer action there. Bella Bomber pushing HIM out, who then calls the jam from the ground, as is tradition.
It's a fun thing that you can do as a jammer. As a blocker, if you hit the ground, you just have to get up and keep going. As a jammer, you can be like, yeah, nah, everyone can stop.
Only if you have lead, though.
Only if you have lead, yeah.
So the idea is to get out the front first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're stuck as well.
All right, so at the end of that jam, Krakens are back in the lead, 36 points from a 12-point jam, and Diamond Valley on 32. So it's still really, really close. It looks like the Krakens, in this half at least, have just been keeping that nose in front. However, everything can change now because Beetledukes has just got lead jammer for the Firetails. So it has that power to sort of start scoring points first and call off the jam if they want. All right, that's a 4 points. And the Krakens jammer, who is She-Wolf has kind of come back to the back of the pack there, and we're moving this pack forward up as the Krakens have got, well, they had a couple of people in the penalty box, so it was a bit of a blocker advantage there to the Diamond Firetails, but all blockers are now back on track, so these jammers have got to get past 4 people. Beetlejuice has a look around and calls off the jam, so it's a defensive call off. And it was a smart move. Firetails 6 points, bringing them to 38. Krakens 2 points on 38. Cannot be any closer. This is shaping up to be a very interesting game.
Quite a low-scoring game as well. Usually we'd have quite a few more points out there by now, but they're both playing quite defensively. We've got Pipsqueak for the Firetails and Tenacious T for the Krakens. Tenacious T almost out the front. And then recycled. And Tenacious T with the initial there. Unfortunately, didn't get an earn pass on all blockers, so that means that lead is still open if Pipsqueak wants it. Complex little rule there, which I cannot explain without at least 5 helpful diagrams. Good defense from the Firetails there. But losing a blocker to a penalty. There's that 4 arms again. Just the 2 arms, guys. Okay, Pipsqueak returning. It's now a full 2-minute jam. Cannot earn lead if you've had a penalty. So neither jammer can have lead. Pipsqueak through for their initial, and another 4 points to Tenacious T.
2-point jam, you just have to keep going.
Absolutely. But 40 seconds to go.
Oh, lovely there from Pipsqueak on the outside line, just cutting through like a knife through butter.
Absolutely. It's about finding the gaps and knowing where the gaps will be. Pipsqueak again on that inside line. Beautifully done. Tenacious T still pushing out the very front of the pack. He's almost there, and then there's a bunch of Firetails in front of them again. Pack has slowed right down on the opposite side now. We're far away from Chaos Corner. And a long, slow recycle for Tenacious T. Stopping the jam at that full 2-minute mark.
All right, so 8 points to both teams from that jam. Oh, no, I spoke too soon. 8 points to the Firetails, bringing them to 46. 12 points to the Krakens, getting them just out in front on 50 points. Now, I did say this was an exciting game, but I have been advised it's actually nerve-wracking. So the support people for both teams do a real nail-biter this one. So it's exciting if you've got no skin in the game. All right, so we've got Dan Slaughter and HAM as our jammers. HAM is pushing that pack forward, trying to find that outside line and just staying in as Riccomortis nods. Yes, that was not out, so HAM getting lead jammer. Dan Slaughter's in the penalty box at the moment, so this is a great opportunity for HAM to bust through like they just did. A little bit of team offense there from the Krakens to kind of open up a bit of space on the track and sort of shepherd the Firetails into one side. HAM's coming through for another scoring pass, trying to break their way through the outside back to the middle and attempted to hit there but didn't quite make it through. Lemon squeezy there, holding on to Dan Slaughter out the top of the pack, but Dan Slaughter makes it through. All right, both jammers now coming up to the pack at around the same time, but HAM has a look at the bench, calls off the jam. So very, very valuable points there for the Krakens. They got 8 points from that jam, bringing them to 58. Diamond Valley, no points to that jam on 46. So that is 12 points difference.
The math is mathing.
12 points is the biggest lead I think we've seen all game.
Absolutely. Whoa. Oh, big push there coming out straight away from Pearl Jammer. She-Wolf sneaking through on the inside though. And a cut track to Pearl Jammer. So that is now a power jam and lead to She-Wolf. Coming around to a very chaotic pack. But a solid Firetails defense to fight a lot of offense from the Krakens. Dana and Sana with a recycle, beautifully done, but then recycled themselves. And unfortunately a penalty. Firetails down to 3 blockers. Still putting on a very good defence. As She-Wolf fights their way through on the inside, beautifully done on their toe stops, through for another 4 points. Blue Jammer returning now, that's Pearl Jammer. Always with the pun names, we love it. And both jammers now stuck in tripods, squeezing their way around. And called by She-Wolf on the advice of their bench. Beautifully done. That's a really solid jam from She-Wolf. 7 points to the Krakens, extending that lead a little further. That's 19 points now. Still anybody's game. This is still so close.
Jammer pairing for this jam. Both trying to find a little bit of space. As the pack starts to split up a little bit, it looks like Beetlejuice finds that gap on the outside line to be assigned lead jammer. And coming up the back pack, hitting that defensive wall. Tenacious T's in the penalty box at the moment. So we've just got Beetlejuice as the only jammer on tracks as the Diamond Firetails trying to do a little bit of offense work, trying to hold a goat there at the back and try to maintain the pack position further back. So by holding the pack back, you end up sort of forcing, as I was saying before, you force the pack to have to spread out forward. Makes it a bit easier for your jammer to try and get through. But Tenacious T is also now back on track, and the Diamond Firetails, they've forced their pack up forwards, forced their little pot of blockers. A little bit of offense there from Lemon Squeezy, makes a little bit of space on the inside. Beetlejuice has made it through. Tenacious T with 2 blockers at the front they're having to get past, but a bit of a knockout as forced to recycle. Some fantastic offensive assistance there from Krakens 161. Back scoring points, trying to get through this solid wall of Krakens and calling it off just as Tenacious T slides towards the back of the pack to see if they got any points from that last little bit. They did not. Okay, so that jam, 7 points to the Firetails, bringing them to 53. Krakens are on 65. That is that 12 again?
Back to that 12-point difference.
Numbers.
Math, once again, mathing.
If it's not like a direct multiple of 4, I can't do it.
They have to be kind to us poor commentators, otherwise we're getting our phone calculators out, and that's a bad time for everyone. Looks like a team timeout to Team Blue, so we get a little bit of pumping music. Okay, returning to play after that team timeout. 5 seconds called with such spirit by our jam timer. They're loving it. Pipsqueak through for the lead. A little bit confused about whether they had caught or not. HIM was out the front for an initial, but unfortunately has cut the track. Can't take any shortcuts here. And that is back to the bin for a sports crime. We've got a jammer bounce. This is a fun little rule where if a jammer is already in the box, if the other jammer comes in, they only serve the amount of time that the other jammer has left. And that means that we've got the full 2-minute jam. You get to listen to my hummied tones for that whole time, as both jammers have had penalties. Initial for HIM coming around. Pipsqueak going for that outside line, but shut down by the Krakens defence. And once again, just a really solid defence there. Bit of offence from Ducky there. Another recycle for HIM. No, either jammer having much fun here. This is the worst time to be a jammer for sure. Unfortunately, a cut track for 325. So once again, a power jam for Pipsqueak, who's looking quite exhausted, as you would be at the end of a long jam like that. After all that pushing and all that fighting, no points. No, 3 points to the Krakens and 4 points to Firetails. Thank goodness. It'd be very depressing if there's no points at all. 68 to 57 with the Krakens in the lead, still so close.
So yeah, it's effectively 1 point difference in the jam. So HIM, it will be starting in the penalty box for the Krakens, and power jam start for Dan Slaughter. And you can see those Firetails blockers are holding back, trying to again stretch that pack out and try. Dan Slaughter can push enough and tries to push that pack up, make a bit of space. So the Diamond Firetails have now come forward and done a little bit of grip off. Now got a little bit of more space, only has Lemon Squeezy to deal with and pushing forward. Donna Kebab kind of bridging out there and has made it through. HIM is now also back on track, trying to get around that inside line, but a lot of effort there from Bella Bomber and the Firetails on that inside line, doing some great defensive work. HIM takes the outside line. Dan Slaughter takes the inside line, knocked out by Lemon Squeezy, but stays in track. Another one. Big hit there from Harmon Miranda, but stays in the track, so it doesn't have to recycle, just gets up and gets going again. HIM stuck at the back there by the Diamond Firetails, really strong blocking contingent. They can be broken up a bit, but they're doing it okay on their own, so some great offensive assistance there from the Krakens coming in to try and break that wall up. So HIM's now stuck in this tripod up the front of the pack. Dan Slaughter's at the back of the pack, and we've got both teams doing a little bit of offense, coming back, holding on to it. Dan Slaughter calls off the jam after HIM's just got out for their initial, which means that is 6 points to Diamond Firetails, bringing them to 63, and the Krakens got no points in that jam. They are on 68. That's 5 points difference. So this lead that the Krakens pushed out, I think they got to about 15-point lead, that's now been clawed back by the Firetails. We're now at half time, so we've got 15 minutes to go and have a drink, get a taco, buy a raffle ticket, visit the stalls we have here. Thank you so much to Dragon City for hosting us today. So you can support Dragon City, you can support local roller derby by buying a ticket in the raffle and supporting the fantastic stalls we have here today. We'll be coming back in about 14 minutes with an absolutely enthralling second half up ahead.
Thralling or nail biting, depending on your point of view.
See you soon.
Okay, here we are returning for period 2 of the third game of the day. 5 seconds called and the whistle's blown and we're out for the Firetails. And looks like 3-2-5 for the Krakens. Unfortunately, almost go out the front and then a forearms penalty back to the box for that sports crime. And a jammer bounce again. So we've got a full 2-minute jam. Both jammers looking very excited about this. Manslaughter coming in the back of the pack now. Finding a sneaky little gap there through the defence, but not quite good enough. Cycling to avoid that cut track penalty. And both jammers back on the track now, both pushing hard at their respective defences. Some big hits there, pushing very hard. And HIM has found a sneaky little gap through the front there. That's their initial pass. Danslaughter still pushing. Up against it. What a big push out there from Ducky. Unfortunately, a back block penalty to the red jammer HIM. Back to the box for that sports crime. Danslaughter still pushing through, trying to get out the front of the pack there. Being held by Fleabag. Fleabag doing an excellent job out the front with that frontal catching. Being very, very frustrating to any jammer who's getting out the front, stretching the pack right out. And that is the end of the jam. A lot of heavy pushing in that one. A lot of sweaty looking folks, all for 0 points. 68 to 63, coming back as we did at the end of the first period.
Still very much anyone's game, and it's very frustrating when you do all that work and you don't get any points, but at the same time the other team didn't get any points either, so, you know, even Stevens. So Pipsqueak pushing out at the front of the pack, trying to find a bit of space and trying to spread out these Kraken blockers. Pack is spread out, making a little bit of space out the front. Lemon Squeezy just forcing the hit out there, Pipsqueak. 1 foot went out, which means that HIM has had opportunity to return from the penalty box, get out of the pack and get lead jammer. Pipsqueak is still trying to make their initial pass. HIM on the inside line, they're trying to find a space, pulling it back to the middle. Pipsqueak on the inside, taking a big hit. Another hit from Lemon Squeezy. Getting instruction there from the bench, get back off the track. You've got to recycle. You were knocked out, so you can't stay on. HIM at the top of the pack there against 2 Firetail blockers and just makes it out of the pack there. Come around on their scoring pass. They've got, it's 4 points there to the Krakens. Pipsqueak also has made it out now for their initial pass and has to get that star cover back on the helmet to start scoring some points. Busting through there, just found a little gap and the edge on the inside there for a sneaky couple of points. End of that jam, Krakens with 7 points, bringing them to 75. Diamond Firetails 3, bringing them to 66. That was at 9?
9-point difference.
Oh,
That's
look
the
at
one.
me, I can
It's
do
really,
numbers.
It's really testing us out today, isn't
I'm
it?
getting better as we go. And just on the live chat, we've got Courtney saying, go Krakens. If you're watching at home, put your messages in the live chat on the YouTube channel and we'll read it out and you'll be famous.
I mean, you can do it from here as well if you're sitting in the crowd. Why not?
Yeah, you can also just yell out with your voice too.
Yeah. Yep, all very valid. Okay, looks like we've got She-Wolf pushing through and Pearl Jammer squeezing around that outside, making a gap and has managed to snag the lead. She-Wolf recycles. Coming into the back of the pack again. Whoa, big hit there for Pearl Jammer. Kangaranga 6502 for the Krakens, putting a very solid defence there. Both jammers now stuck in the pack. But She-Wolf taking advantage of a little gap down the inside there. And is through for their initial pass. That's 4 points for Pearl Jammer. Both jammers hitting the pack at pretty much the same time. And a quick points and call from Pearl Jammer. Looks like we've got $79 to $70, 4-point jam each. Once again, still sitting at 9 points, the difference.
I've got Tenacious T and Beetledukes as our jammer combo for this next one, as the pack is staying pretty solid there back towards the jammer line. Both jammers still trying to find that gap. Tenacious T moving the pack forward a little bit, and Beetledukes being recycled back. Some offensive assistance there from 161 from the Krakens, trying to sort of break that up, but that's a solid wall. Now that 161 is stuck in the middle, but trying to hold pack together, but Tenacious T has found the gap, found some space at the front, and has made their way through. Bella Bomber doing some offensive assistance there to try to help Beetledukes out, but unfortunately earning a penalty and being sent to the box. So the Krakens with the blocker advantage at the moment, as the Firetails have 2 blockers in the penalty box, so that makes life a lot easier. However, that's not taking into account Jack Spider at the front of the pack there, doing everything she can to hold on to Tenacious T. And then unfortunately being sent to the penalty box as well. So that's leaving Disgrace as the stuck doing a bit of defence by themselves. As the penalty box is starting to clear up, Tenacious D is trying to get those apex jumps on that first turn, and this time landing it very smoothly and coming through for a sneaky 4 points. Bella Bomber trying to do some offense, get Lemon Squeezy out of the way. He's coming back saying, you know what, I'll just shake that off and I'm coming back to do some defence. Got Tenacious T on the inside line again. In Stumbletown, we've got this slidey corner we're at. Beetledukes as well taking a bit of a tumble there and being recycled back, and then having a crack at that inside line, but unfortunately sliding off track. Both jammers getting some points there on that last turn. 11-point jam there to the Krakens, bringing them to 90. And a 3-point jam for the Firetails, bringing them to 73. I think that's 17.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So once again, the Krakens pushing that lead out. Let's see if the Firetails can bring it back again as they did in the first half.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got Dan Slaughter up for the Firetails, and it looks like She-Wolf for the Krakens, both pushing really hard. Very squeezy. Now, if we're ever getting the maths wrong, feel free to shout at us and or put it on the live stream. That's where you can offer your feedback. Still a lot of squeezing and shoving, but nobody through as yet. Just on turn 1, stuck at the first apex. Both jammers and both teams quite stuck. And that is now, unfortunately, a penalty to She-Wolf. Power jam to Dan Slaughter. Still fighting their way around. As Fleabag works their way back through the pack with some difficulty to try and recycle. Lots of offense for from the Firetails and a spirited defence from the Krakens. Still no lead as yet. Both jammers now back on track. And that is the end of the jam, the full 2 minutes. We're just working out the scoreline now. But once again, a lot of pushing, but not a huge outcome, making these guys work very, very hard.
Yeah, it looks like we might not have got any points for any team there.
Yep.
All right, team timeout for the Diamond Firetails. Going to have a chat, bit of a strat chat, get the vibes up, think about the momentum of the game.
And some tunes to assist with that.
And we are away for the next jam. Watto versus HIM as our jammer matchup. HIM got lead straight away. Unfortunately, Watto will be starting from the penalty box. So power jam to HIM, who has made good work of it by first of all getting lead and secondly coming back around to start scoring some points pretty quickly. Took a big hit there from Bellabomber, but it wasn't recycled back, so I was able to get straight back into the point scoring. All right, so the Krakens are holding at the back there to sort of force that pack forward. And HIM doing a big push on the solid defensive wall. 4 blockers. Meanwhile, Watto's out of the penalty box and is trying to find some space there amongst the Krakens. Hasn't made it through, but HIM has made it through, coming around for another 4 points. So the Firetails are having a look. All right, what do we need to do? Do we need to do a bit of offense? Do we need to help our jammer? No, we need to do some defense because HIM is coming back fast for another scoring pass. So holding here on the second turn, trying to hold HIM back there, but they're trying to find their space. And we have had a star pass for Diamond Valley. What is given the star to Bellabomber, who's unfortunately had to recycle all the way back, so almost made it out and then had to come all the way back, which is really disheartening. You take that star, you think, yes, there's an opportunity to go, 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 but I've been held back. And we've called off the jam there, so quick score update. 0 points in that jam for the Firetails. They're on 73. The Krakens 12 points, massive jam. They've pushed the lead out to 102. That's 29 points? If I say it quietly, it can't be wrong.
I am not confident enough to confirm nor deny.
Yeah, it's 29.
Yeah, 29, sure, let's go with that. Why not?
Oh dear.
Okay, there's that 5 seconds and the whistle. That means we're back in Derby again. Jam 7 of period 2. We've got Pearl Jammer on one side, She-Wolf on the other. Pearl Jammer at the front. Getting caught by just the tail end of the Krakens defence and has managed to squeeze their way through for the lead. She-Wolf still pushing, now a bunch of O to make the defence very complicated. Ooh, Pearljammer coming in swinging. And is through for the extra 4 points. She-Wolf still looking for that initial. Working hard against a very strong Firetails defence, and that's a star pass to Fleabag. So Fleabag is now the jammer. She-Wolf becomes a blocker. And that is the wonder of being a pivot, that person with a stripe on your helmet.
And Pearljammer's been given a penalty, so they've lost lead jammer status. So we now going to have a full 2-minute jam.
That's the one. Fleabag working hard to get through the pack and has managed to get through for 4 points. Now when you've got a power jam happening, you do have full offence. You don't have to worry about defending. So the job made a little bit easier for Fleabag there. By no means easy, just easier. Blue Jammer, Pearljammer returning to the track after their little sports crime. And now it's time for some jammer on jammer action as they come around. That is the full time though, before they can have too much fun. And we've got 12 points to the Krakens, 4 points to the Firetails, 114 to 77 to the Krakens. And Claire is very helpfully showing me the math, which has just changed. So we were doing so well. 114 to 81 now, which is a 33-point difference. There we go, thank you. I told you we'd get the phone calculators out at some point. We've got an OR now, an official review. So I'm going to dash across, see what the word is.
All right, Hypodermic's on the case, and we'll have some tunes in the meantime. Can you hear us? Yeah, all right, we are back on. And we've got Pipsqueak up against Tenacious T. In a minute, Hypodermic's going to fill us in on the wonders of the official timeout. But in the meantime, Tenacious T has taken lead jammer. Pipsqueak there, just almost out on the inside line, but being knocked out and forced to recycle there behind Lemon Squeezy. And while you're at it, give it a bit of a hit to Tenacious T. Love a bit of a jammer on jammer action. Unfortunately, that was an illegal hit, though. And Pipsqueak's been sent to the penalty box. Tenacious D with the power jam. Lemon Squeezy with the offensive assistance there. And Diamond Firetails trying to keep their defensive tripod together. Jack Spite for the hit, run and chase hit out. Not quite making it. Tenacious T is out for their scoring pass. And unfortunately, Jack Spike gets a blocking out of play penalty. So a little bit of train stations at the penalty box at the moment. And I'd just like to let everyone know that the thing at 3 p.m. If you're hungry, get a taco or some nachos. They have veg and vegan options, and they will be leaving at 3 p.m. All right, something's going on with Hypodermic's microphone, so I'm just going to keep talking. We've got, who have we got here? HIM and getting lead jammer status pretty quickly. HIM coming out for another scoring pass there. Meanwhile, Pipsqueak running and sliding and twirling around on the inside line there, coming up for a scoring pass. HIM with another 4 on the outside then. HIM getting a cut track penalty there from Rickamortis on the outside. So we have a power jam for Pipsqueak. HIM in the penalty box. Pipsqueak has the power to score, well, the only one who has any power to score any points at the moment. Firetails holding back and then coming forward for some group offensive assistance there to try and break up the pack there so Pipsqueak can get through, which they've done for another 4 points. They've taken an opportunity to hit the pack there at speed, and the offensive assistance there for the Firetails doing a little bit of group offense. And we have had a star pass. I'll just wait and make sure that all the teams are aware of it before I announce it, but it looks like everybody's aware. Star pass. The Pipsqueak has handed over the star, and also we've got HIM back on track, having completed their penalty. We're going to have the full 2-minute jam here. HIM getting another couple of points there. Our new blue jammer, I cannot see who it is, sorry, Jack Spite, fortunately being forced to recycle. No, not being forced to recycle, being sent to the penalty box. So they'll be sitting that penalty as a jammer, which means they'll be starting the next jam from the penalty box. All right, looks like we've got a bit of a timeout action happening at the moment. Not sure if it's team timeout. It looks like an official timeout. And I'd just like to let everyone know that I've been saying HIM's name wrong. They're actually him, so apologies for saying the Derby name wrong there. And thank you to Bonnie Jovi for letting us know. If you hear us say anyone's name wrong or make any boo-boos, please just come let us know. We'll do our best. Sometimes we don't know. All right, so our officials are over at the bench. They're talking about what's going on. So a little bit of a score update from that jam. 8 points to the Diamond Firetails, bringing them to 93. 4 points to the Krakens, bringing them to 126. Going to get out the trusty phone calculator, use the power of technology to tell us that is a 33-point difference. So we've been in this 30-point-ish difference for a little while now. And Hypodermic is back, and now you can fill us in on what happened in the official review.
Well, that's if I can remember.
It's been so long ago.
It has been a hot minute. No, it was a request from, I believe, the Krakens to have a penalty, a low block penalty, as discussed before, the low block, not a leg block, on Pearl Jammer for 8s in a row, as they came into the back of the pack during, I think it must be about 4 jams back now. But unfortunately that review is not upheld. Officials only have so many sets of eyes, can only look at so many directions at once, and as you can see from the sidelines, Derby is a chaotic game. And so sometimes some things no ref will have eyes on at that time. Still sitting in an official timeout for now. Looks like we've got some sort of issue with the scoreboard, which means it's time for a boogie. And we are back. Derby is on, boogieing stops. Whistle has blown and we're here for Jam 11 period 2. 126 to 93 to the Krakens, with She-Wolf trying to do some fancy footwork on the inside there. Not quite enough on those toe stops. And it looks like Blue Jammer is in the bin. Lead to She-Wolf. As the pack comes around, sitting at that turn 1. Not quite the chaos corner. Both jammers now out. And a long recycle there. Coming around to chaos corner now. That's an initial pass for Jack Spine. And the end of that jam. Looks like we've got 4 points to the Krakens again. And unfortunately for the Firetails, they're starting 2 blockers down.
So the blocker advantage to the Krakens, so they'll have to have a think about where they best want to be, how can they make the most of this, and Firetails with only 2 blockers in the start are going to have to think about how to minimise I guess mitigate the impacts of only having 2 blockers. And they've done really well there to hold Tenacious T, but Tenacious T still has managed to make it out. Pearl Jammers trying to find their way through on the slippery slide chaos corner. Tenacious T's coming around on the inside line, can see a bit of a gap there and has just taken it so easily as some of the Firetails start to come back from the penalty box. All right, Tenacious T doing a little bit of spin there and just calling it off in the classic fallen call. And at the same time, I believe they've been given a low block penalty. Oh, someone has? Yes. Let's see. So that jams 6 points to the Krakens, bringing them to 136. Diamond Firetails are on 93. So yeah, Tenacious T did get a low block penalty there assessed by Gary on the outside line, and we'll be starting a powerless jam.
Jam starting, and a quick little push to the outside there for 84. That is Beetlejuice back again, pushing hard against a very strong Krakens defence. Just squeezing around to turn 2. There's some offense there from Firetails, just enough to sneak Beetlejuice through. Tenacious T returns to the track with style, straight back and through for their initial pass. Beetlejuice now around the back of the pack, again going for points this time, but recycled by Fleabag. Tenacious T and Beetlejuice both pushing hard at the respective tripods there. Pack is now starting to stretch out along that back straightaway. Still pushing hard. And that is Tenacious T through for their initial. Beetlejuice seeing Tenacious T coming around and decides that's enough, no points for you. And has managed to snag 2 points for the Firetails to the Krakens 4. 140 to 95. Firetails just about to crack the ton, with the Krakens starting to move away now.
So 45 points difference there. It's really starting to that lead is extending. There's about 5 and a bit minutes left. Still, you know, anything can happen. And we had She-Wolf being recycled a long way back there on the start. So Pipsqueak's been able to get out there for lead jammer. Both teams with a blocker in the penalty box. So it's 3v1 for both blocking teams. Pipsqueak with a bit of a hit there and taking that inside line just at the pivot line to come through for another scoring pass. Bella Bomber doing their best to draw back, but it looks like She-Wolf's been sent to the penalty box. So this is a power jam for Pipsqueak. Diamond Firetails holding that pack at the back, not moving, and then coming forward there to do a little bit of pack manipulation to help Pipsqueak get through. All right, Pipsqueak one-on-one with Harmon Miranda, but being recycled there. Looks like 1 foot might have gone off the track there, and only have to deal with one blocker, but you know, Harmon Miranda's not an easy blocker to get around. Pipsqueak hitting the back of that pack and then coming back to the inside line where there's a little bit of space there and find that line to come through for another 4 points. She-Wolf is back on track and is trying to find a way through. Being recycled there by Power Ranger. Pipsqueak at the back of the pack there as well. Now we're on Chaos Corner. Let's see what happens. And yeah, She-Wolf has been sent for another trip to the penalty box. So once again, we have a power jam situation for Pipsqueak, who's taken the hat off. And unfortunately, if you've done that, you've lost you've given up your lead jammer status, and you cannot call off the jam. So you have to keep going in this case for the full length of the jam. In a couple more seconds. Coming round, and fortunately time is a sweet relief for Pipsqueak, who wasn't able to call it off. But a fantastic 16 points there from that jam for the Diamond Firetails, bringing them to 111. The Krakens, no points in that jam. They are still on 140.
A jam like that really gives you the idea of how quickly this game can change. You can have a 45-point lead and then suddenly sneaking right back to 29 points. Okay, Firetails starting with a power jam. She-Wolf still in the box. I believe it's for 2 penalties, unfortunately. And that is
Dan Slaughter
Dan
and
Slaughter,
the jamming.
thank you, pushing their way through, pushing hard. Lemon Squeezy with the excellent defence, just holding their glasses out. I'm not sure whether that's part of the defence or not, but it seems to be working. I also wear glasses on track. I get how it works, Lemon.
Defensive for the glasses, perhaps.
Absolutely,
Keep them safe.
Yeah. Dan Slaughter coming around again as into the back of the pack. She-Wolf has returned to the track as well, going for their initial. Squeezy little pack with a bit of offense there, and She-Wolf has snuck through the inside there. Beautifully done with a smidge of offense from the Krakens. Still stuck on turn 1, and Dan Slaughter calling it off there as She-Wolf approaches for points. Defense will be done again. So there's a 2-point jam to the Firetails, 113 to 140 for the Krakens, just clawing it back a smidge.
All right, just a reminder, the taco truck is leaving at 3. You've got about half an hour, 25 minutes to get your tacos. Right, with that whistle we are away. We've got about 1:30 left in this game, all things being equal. Big hit there on the outside. Him has been launched off the track. And we're going to take a little break. Make sure everyone's all right.
got that long conductor's whistle, which means we're returning to play.
get a massive thank you for the Central Victorian Library team, Lion team. If you're wondering why we're called Dragon City Roller Derby, it's because Bendigo is very, very proud of its Chinese heritage. So can we get a round of applause while we sweep the track as well? Thank you.